So now I'd like to go to Phil Edholm for the clubs and NMRA, local clubs and NMRA divisions. Phil, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the opportunity. Tonight, actually, I have an interesting guest who's actually a compadre of mine out on the West Coast. Walt Mizuno is with us. And what I'd like to do is really ask Walt a few questions about his roles, and first kind of his role in the NMRA. He's very active in the daylight division of the NMRA, and kind of talk about what he's been doing there, and actually some interesting events he's involved with that I'd also like to talk about. So, Walt, first, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do from a model railroading perspective.
Thanks, Phil. Well, anyway, as Phil said, I am the director of the daylight division of PCR. I'm basically the equivalent of Phil and his coast division. But some of the things we are trying to do as a division is to get more people involved, not only new people, but also the existing membership, and having them participate in some of the activities we have. So we've got, a weekly meeting that's on Zoom, and anywhere from maybe 10 people up to about 15 or 20 people is a typical meeting for us. It's, again, once a week on Tuesdays. We're trying to go out there and also recruit new members. On a personal basis, I like encouraging the young people who show an interest in model railroading already to get involved, and we invite them to operate on our little layout at my son's home. And we're trying to partner up at Fresno State, which is a local university. They are offering a model railroad competition, and that's going to be held in April of 2023. And we are trying to get about 30 teams of about 10 people each in there to participate. And they'll range anywhere from first grade all the way up through high school. And they'll be broken down by the different age groups. There'll be 3 different divisions in there. They'll be running a DCC layout that they design and build themselves. And what it is, it's just to help them get acquainted with a transportation system, in this case, railroading. And they'll be operating passenger trains between cities. And in our particular case, we've got a map of California that's printed on a sheet of foam, 4x8 sheet of foam. And they get to design their own track work. I've been mentoring the grad students who are working on the project and showing some basics, because they come in with very little understanding of model railroading. So we're going through everything from laying out track, soldering track, wiring. I'm helping them program the DCC locomotives right now. And we're just trying to get it set up so they can act as coaches for the teams that come in. Walthers has stepped up. We've been in contact with Walthers, and they've stepped up and provided most of the equipment at a substantially reduced price for us to be able to provide all the equipment to the various teams. So they all get a couple of locomotives, passenger cars, a DCC throttle, and it's the Bachmann throttle, and all the necessary other supplies like wire and soldering iron, pliers, rail joiners, so forth and so on. And on the day of the competition, they'll be doing a timed run where they operate their miniature railroads like the real thing to generate revenue. They are showing the cost to construct, and this is based on not just the model, but also on a geographic setup in California. So they have to buy the right of way. They look at maintenance costs, and it's a good way at least to get them thinking about a transportation system. In this case, it's going to be railroads. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Cool. Is that so? How do the students or the young people get involved in that program? where do they come from? Is this promoted in the schools then, or how does it come about in terms of their involvement?
I belong to an engineering college, and we will go out to the local schools on an outreach type program. The Transportation Institute, of which this is funded by, is part of our civil engineering department. And so we meet typically by Zoom, but we'll go out there to the various schools and we'll make contact with them on a personal basis. I've even got my daughter-in-law, who's a grade school teacher, to get her class involved. And a lot of it's just outreach. I've asked some of the other model railroaders in our division to go out to the schools and talk to people that they know are into model railroad to put together a team. We've got parents who are involved, teachers who are involved, and then the students. So we're just trying to have fun with this, and at the same time, just introduce everybody to model railroading.
That's interesting. Very interesting and very different outreach in terms of reaching out into the community in that way to the schools. So for the participants, is there a reward for success, or how is that managed?
The participants are just going to have a small award and bragging rights.
And bragging rights.
Right. And
Cool.
We've got Walters coming out there, and they would like to share their scholarship program with some of the teams as well. So they'll be getting some kits and so forth, as they progress through their competition.
Well, that's good. That's good. So talk a bit about just from more the NMRA organization, within the division, are there interesting events or activities that you do as a division that are different, unique, or what things are most successful, do you think?
I'm not sure if we're doing a lot of unique things per se. I think we're doing what I see from the other divisions doing, and we're either emulating them or trying to bring them, into our division and massage them a little bit and adapt them to our needs. But we have, as I said, Zoom meetings. We're going to be doing a little bit of recruitment at the local train shows. I know that Sierra Division's doing some recruitment at their Great American Train Show that's coming up in Sacramento. We're doing one that's in March for us. Again, trying to get people who are already model railroaders, but at this point, get them into a division, daylight division in our case.
Yep.
And we've got a fairly diverse geographic area. We're a large area with few members. A lot of our area is really rural in nature, and we have a few large cities. But by and large, we cover a large area, and it's hard for us to get together in a single room. So a lot of our meetings are hybrid now.
Yep, that's interesting. So, out of curiosity, one of the challenges that a lot of divisions have talked about is volunteers. And from a division perspective, how do you get volunteers involved? It seems like a lot of people are pretty complacent this day and willing to kind of just sit back. And do you have found any good techniques to suck them in other than begging?
We do the begging part too, but a lot of it has to do with finding them that interest them, finding something that interests them. And we've got a few people who are interested in just say like wiring or something like that. And we use them as mentors for other people who are putting a layout together that don't understand electrical work as well. So we will make the ask for them. We've got several non-NMRA clubs in the area, and we go out there and talk to them as well. Unfortunately, the number of NMRA members is not a huge percentage of the total model railroad group out there. So we're trying to make contact with a lot of people that ordinarily we may not see. Yep. And I've got one of our members is putting on a weathering clinic, kind of like a modeling with the masters type of thing. So he wants to do that for the students, or not just students, but just other model railroaders. And whether the members of our division or not, we're just trying to get them to, do things with us.
See value in participating and being part of of the group of the organization. So it sounds like recruiting is predominantly at kind of the trade shows locally, but I think the students thing is very interesting. Um, talking about the mentoring, you had the concept. How do you get people aligned with those people in the division that have those mentoring skills, like someone who's really good with DCC? How do they get aligned with someone who needs their help in that from a mentoring perspective?
A lot of it is just word of mouth. Somebody will come in and say, hey, I know a fellow that is pretty good at weathering or DCC, say programming with JMRI. And we just put them on a personal basis. We'll say, hey, get in touch with this person. Here's their email, here's their phone number. And most of these people, especially our MMRs, are very good at reaching out and contacting them.
That's good. That's good. So I know one of the things that you're also involved with is because of the transportation there is, I think, some things relative to the high-speed rail in California. You could talk a little bit about that. I thought that was very interesting.
Right. The high-speed rail was started in the valley, and basically the route is now being built along from Bakersfield north through Madera, and it runs through the city of Fresno. But that is one of the large donors of this model railroad competition. We, through the Transportation Institute, are trying to feature all different forms of transportation. This year just happened to be model railroads or railroads in general. And I just happened to be there when they started the competition. So I just volunteered to help out with them a little bit. Some of the other things we do that I've noticed, I volunteer at the State Railroad Museum up in Sacramento. And it's amazing just the number of people that come through there who are from our area, but we did not know who they are, and they're interested in helping out as well.
Right.
So we run across them in various ways. It's just interesting if you just get out there and let them know that you're available. They usually reach out and form some partnerships and bonds.
Yeah, I think events like that or locations like that are good places to meet those modelers in your community that are not part of a division, part of the NMRA. So I guess kind of to close, what unique learnings would if you had to identify a couple of unique learnings that you'd want to communicate to other divisions that you thought were successful, that you've done that you think are fairly unique, what would they be?
I think we're looking for opportunities that aren't readily apparent. One of the things, as I said, this model railroad competition, it may not be done after this year. It may be done every year after this year. We don't know, but it just happened to be one of those things because of COVID and everything else was delayed a little bit.
Yep.
And it's now, just a good activity to get everybody involved. We're promoting it as a family activity, right, where the parents can go out there and work with their kids and just get involved and actually learn something along the way, not just in model railroading, but in just the history of the area, how railroads run as far as the economics of railroads, transportation, things like clean air. That's a big thing for this area, in that the high-speed rail is going to be powered predominantly by electricity that's produced by solar means. So we're trying to get off of a carbon, lower our carbon footprint.
Yeah, it's interesting that the partnering with an upper level educational institution, university level, sounds pretty interesting. And that also gives you a lot of access into the other educational systems. So that was a good way of doing that. Kind of an interesting way of creating something for younger people. Well, Walter, I really appreciate it. The time to come in and talk a few minutes with us. And do you have any questions for us or any final comments?
I just like the format of this show. With Jess talking about the washes and everything else, I think those are good tips. We do our Tuesday night meeting locally, and one of the things I really enjoy about just getting to hear what everybody's doing on their layouts and what progress they're making. And sometimes we start a discussion as to the best way to do it, and usually you learn something.
Yep.
And that's good.
That's the whole goal is the mentoring, as you talked about earlier, getting mentoring, getting people together, exchanging those skills. So, well, thanks, Walt, and I'll bid you adieu. And Jim, we'll turn it back over to you.